A little dose of perspective on Elon Musk's last day with Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. The G is soft. I think in assessing his efforts, we need to isolate the what from the who, and then really focus on the where and the how. We are all in favor of discovering waste, fraud, and abuse, I hope. I told you guys before that the acronym WFA, Waste, Fraud, and Abuse, is part of every proposal in politics when explaining how to pay for something. Every plan will cost less than people say it will because, well, we're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. And once you take that out, it becomes less expensive because it could be saving. They always say that. And Musk was aiming for just that. He just went very big with his promises in Trumpian fashion. First, it was going to be $2 trillion from the budget, then $1 trillion. But no American should be against the goal. Why? Just because you want Trump to fail, right? But doesn't that mean we all lose? And we should not let the analysis be dominated by who was doing the discovering. Musk is polarizing, and he was kind of obnoxious. But let's remember, okay, who's really ridiculous here are the two sides. Musk was an icon of the left. His Teslas were enemy number one of the anti-green MAGA folk. Then the guy flips sympathies, and the two teams just flip on him with no shame in their game, showing how absurd the game of party politics is. The guy decides to support Trump, and all of a sudden, everything that people believed about his cars and his just changes on both sides. Pathetic. So now you have lefties driving Teslas when they aren't burning them down with bumper stickers that read, "I got this before Elon went crazy." And you have the right loving Elon, calling people who vandalized the cars terrorists just because he went full MAGA and spent over $250 million on Trump's reelection. But the MAGA folks still refuse to drive the EVs. You know, you talk about moving past right and left to get back to just being reasonable. So let's be reasonable. How did he do? Doge is claiming to have saved $175 billion. Now, yeah, that's less than, it's a lot less than what was promised. My problem with the number is I don't believe it because there were no receipts for at least less than half of the 175 number are backed by hard data. And I don't think it should have been hard to get the data to back it up. So if it isn't there, I don't trust the number. And by the way, the American Enterprise Institute, which is absolutely a conservative think tank, has only identified $80 billion in savings based on what they could prove. One nonpartisan group found that Doge's actions may actually cost the federal government money, maybe as much as they say they found in inefficiencies. Why? Because they put tens of thousands of employees on paid leave and then had to rehire them, and it caused inefficiencies. But the numbers, don't really matter until Congress authorizes the cuts. Those are the so-called rescission bills, right? To codify the cuts. Now, I got to tell you, I like that at least now everyone admits Congress has to approve the cuts. You remember when Elon and Trump were saying, no, we can do it ourselves. Don't stop us. The Constitution gives us the power. It was all BS. And how you do things matters. This is a good goal. It was good for Trump to make it a priority. I think it was good for him to bring in Elon Musk. I knew it was going to be short-lived. I told you that. But the system is set up with checks and balances for a reason, and it's not a bad reason. So what really matters about Musk and his role at Doge is the how he did the job and where they identified the cuts. That's what really matters. Mistakenly firing workers, loss of productivity, denying lawmakers access to agencies, playing with our data, and of course going after agencies he had a problem with personally or professionally and sparing places that give him contracts, all made him a little bit of a suspicious choice. Okay, and it takes us to the how, and that is worthy of scrutiny. Because that's what made Doge's efforts sus, not the goal. Right? And not really just that he had an outsider doing it, but that the outsider had conflicts and should have been vetted. Now, I personally say bravo for the effort. I say bravo for raising awareness that government has a lot of inefficiencies and antiquated systems and that the bureaucracy needs an enema. The government wastes between 200 and 500 billion every year in improper payments and other forms of waste, fraud, and abuse. Would never be tolerated in the private sector. Why do we tolerate it in the public one? Now, my beef is that Trump and co act like they're the only ones to ever say this. And MAGA is only too happy to go along with that. Like nobody ever tried to find waste, fraud, and abuse. The reality is very different. The problem of waste, fraud, and abuse is so entrenched in government that this same revelation from Trump has been called out in the last 5 administrations. I'm old enough to remember when Clinton and Gore did REGO, reinventing federal government, almost as weird as the Doge acronym. They saved over $130 billion, maybe more than Doge came up with. But what made the difference? How they did it. Instead of pretending to raid agencies and everybody's bad but them, they took time to study inefficiencies. They presented a report to Congress and the White House, and then Clinton and Gore worked with Congress to get bipartisan legislation to pass the savings. Bipartisan. Why? Because it wasn't all gotcha. It wasn't them saying, you suck, look what we found, this is your fault. It wasn't one side just against the other. It was about getting it done. The how made the difference for Democratic and GOP administrations. You know, Reagan did this same thing. The Grace Commission. You know why it was called Grace? Not an acronym. It was named after the businessman, Peter Grace, who Reagan picked to lead it. Trump's not the first one to bring in an outsider. Reagan did the same thing, right? It's just about who you pick and how they go about it, right? Trump wasn't the first one to use a proxy, and there's nothing wrong with it on its face, depending on who it is and how they do it. And what Grace did was he brought in other corporate executives and the people at the heads of the agencies and said, let's all talk about what cuts you think you can make at the agencies, and let's let some private sector business people kind of review your assessments. And it was a much more mature and competent way to do it than just having some army of juvenile technocrats going in there like they must be better than everybody else. The commission came out with a report. Now, interestingly, Congress bucked at the cuts, and they only passed a few of them. So Reagan used executive orders to save about $100 billion. Sound familiar? So why wasn't he hung up in court the whole time? Because of how he did it. Unlike Trump, Reagan didn't taunt the other side and Congress saying, I have the power, you don't challenge me. So it just kind of went through. How you do things matters, okay? Doge pretended Congress didn't matter and tried to force cuts as if they could do it themselves when everybody knew this is how it was going to come out. The law is clear. There was a single moment that I believe ruined it. Musk bringing out that chainsaw at CPAC. It was a great meme moment. MAGA loved it. But it just kind of personified the recklessness, the egotism, the egoism of it. And that it was a food fight, basically, instead of a fact-finding mission. And yet, Doge was still able to identify billions in savings for us from government spending that was wasteful, even if it was Elon, even if it was under Trump. Now, you may remember I told you Elon wouldn't last that long. Too much heat, too short an attention span. He overestimated his tolerance for the attacks that were going to come. And it was only a matter of time before he said something that pissed Trump off. And saying he was disappointed in Trump's big, beautiful budget bill, you knew he was going to be heading for the exit. So I say bravo for the effort, but how you do things matters. And that's what wound up spoiling what could have been a big, beautiful bundle of cuts. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.